Hey Harmonizers! Welcome to this video. This is Meraki. We are off teaching a clinic, and so I thought I would use the lunchtime opportunity. I've just walked him inside. We're not going to do any prep or anything. I'm going to see if I can just go right to some handling skills that we might have to do at the competition, just to see where we're at. If I wasn't able to do any comm connection exercises in here, could we cope? So kind of like his first show experience, if you will. And then we're gonna attempt to do a little bit of Liberty because, you know, we've only done one session at home, so why not try it with a whole bunch of distractions, and we'll see how it goes. So let's take a look.
So first up, I'm gonna show you guys a little look at when I went to kind of a start marker and pretended that I was going to be doing a pattern class. So I asked Meraki to come with me, and usually for the pattern class you have to do some walking, some trotting, some backing up, and a few different maneuvers. And so there I'm asking him to go forward, and he sees the mirror and looks out a little bit, but he does his back up with me and then is a little bit reluctant to trot past the mirror afterwards. So he started off pretty good and then was a little bit distracted, and so we didn't get our trot. So I don't get mad at him, but I ask him to try to go forward a little bit, and then he's a little bit kind of looking around him, and I'm asking him to do a haunch turn there. Definitely not our most beautiful pattern, but also quite the challenge with the distractions. It's hard to say for the competition if it will be easier or harder, because my experience at my only Mustang makeover so far is that when you do the pattern, you're in the ring and you don't have anything in with you, and everything else is kind of like outside at a little bit of a distance away, and there's a lot of stuff in the arena, so it's a little bit harder for him. And so he's just kind of a little bit fidgety. Every time he kind of fidgets and wants to move around, I'm just calling his hip back to me, because I want to make sure he understands that I'd like him to just stay straight. And he's kind of moving around. Sometimes when they're doing that, you notice I was rubbing on his neck. I find if I just rub the horse, it can help them understand, hey, like, I'm supposed to just stand still. It's not so much to tell them that life is okay, but I find that rubbing a horse is almost like the universal signal for stand still, because we rub our horses when we groom them, or sometimes when we're just kind of, you know, standing still and hanging out. And so sometimes that helps to just get them to stand still a little bit better. So now I'm just working on picking up his feet, which is kind of like a handling task. So there's a pattern class usually and a handling class. In the handling class, you have to pick up all of the hooves, of the horse. And so I'm walking around him and doing that, which he did pretty nicely. He was a little bit fidgety, but he's ground tying really well and staying put and lifting his feet really nicely for me. So I'm giving him a little reward there. And what was different about coming in this time is I was trying not to use food rewards for the most part when we went in, just to kind of see how he would take that. Trying to experiment with fewer rewards before we get to the actual competition. And then this was much better this time, trotting past the mirror, but we're also trotting back the way we kind of came. So he did really well there. And just kind of exposing him to the different things. And one of the other things for handling is you have to usually brush your horse all over. So I don't have a brush with me, but I'm just kind of pretending I'm patting him all over, rubbing. There he moved a little bit, but not too bad. The competition at this point of doing this video, I still had 2 weeks of when I was doing this first offsite experience, practicing this kind of stuff. So the best thing I can do for him at this point is just practice, anytime I take him somewhere, just go in and kind of practice trotting. So in the beginning, when I'm with my horses, I usually walk for different things, and then as they get more confident, I add trot. And then the harder thing for prepping for the competition is that he's got to be able to go into the ring and trot. So he's got to have that faster speed. But I always want to have a horse that's calm and thinking rather than a wild, crazy horse. So I'd rather, practice the walking to start with and then add that when we feel comfortable. So after we did a bunch of our handling stuff, I did a little bit more stuff. And if you want to see the full video, then you can join the Connection Club to check that out. And I'll show you guys the full video with my commentary on the day of all the different stuff that we worked through. And then here's a little look at the Liberty. So this is his first offsite Liberty, and actually only his second Liberty ever. So he's being goofy and stepping over the bridges. He knows he's supposed to step on the bridges, but I'm trying to fix it without touching. I have a neck rope on him, and I usually put a neck rope on my horses just as a backup, so I can use like a cheek hold or a neck hook if I want to make corrections, but the neck rope can allow me to make some corrections without being too assertive or scary or messy. It's a pretty easy tool to use. So I like to have that on my horses just as a little way that I can make a correction rather than having a stick or a whip. So they're two different tools that you can choose to make corrections or give signals to your horse, and so that's just my preference for when I'm getting started. So I'm just playing around and kind of experimenting with, if I move around the ring, will he stick with me? Will he come with me over different objects? And so far pretty good, and mostly, intrigued about, is he interested enough to stay with me? And so far that's working out pretty well, and he climbs up onto the teeter-totter pretty nicely. Does that pretty easily, and that's one of the moves that we're planning to keep in our freestyle, is doing a teeter-totter, among other things. And this is all about assessing, what comes easy for him, what comes hard for him, because we've got to put together a freestyle routine, and I'd love for it to be at Liberty. And so part of doing that is setting things up for success for your horse and choosing the things that your horse can do well. So here experimenting with the tarp and giving it some little ruffles, and you can see Meraki's figuring out the pattern of Mom tries to scare me a little bit, and if I just stand here, then I'm gonna get a cookie. And what a nice way to do that for a horse, that it's not, terrifying. And he's just like, I stood still, can I have a treat? I just love it. I love seeing those little faces on the horses when they're just so proud of themselves, like, I didn't move, I get a treat. And they don't get scared, because so many times things that we do to horses, people have different ways of trying to sack them out, or whatever, and basically they're terrifying their horse until they kind of submit. And I just think that's not super kind, and love seeing this kind of stuff with horses instead. Playing with the ball a little bit, just checking out what kind of distractions can he handle. And sorry, Evelyn's starting to squawk a little bit there in the background. But Meraki going up over some of the bridges and stuff again. Much better job getting on there with the 4 feet. And I never just do something kind of once and kind of assume that it's going to be good or not good. I want to make sure I repeat things, not necessarily in the same session, but I'm going to be practicing this stuff over the next couple weeks and trying to figure out what's going to work for him. Playing around with some different buttons there. And he's doing the little pawing out stuff because I was teaching him how to give me a high five. And then, of course, what happens is they start to default to that. But anyways, that's his first offsite Liberty, and he's stuck with me. I'm pretty happy. Let me guys know what you think and what moves you'd like to see in his freestyle.